Cheaper EVs are coming to Australia soon. A couple of weeks ago, I did a video on cheaper EVs, but here I'm going to go into a bit more detail on what EVs are coming, some of their prices and specs if we know of them. As I said in the last video, and I'll post up here, um, there's not too many EVs coming here, unfortunately, in the near future. Australia has become a bit of a backwater when it comes to these cheaper EVs. All this might change when our current government gets up off its arse and starts introducing fuel efficiency and fuel emission standards. But until then, we're probably left at the behest of the EV manufacturers to bring their EVs here. Legacy automakers are more inclined to sell their EVs in other countries where they're desperately in need of reducing their overall emission levels to stop massive fines. But there are a few candidates on the horizon. We've already got the MG ZS EV, which had an original starting price of $43,990 drive away. But over time, with the very latest update that's due here very soon, that has risen to $46,990 drive away. Of course, we've got the BYD Atto 3, which, despite all the problems that EV Direct have brought into the mix with warranty and servicing costs, it's still going to prove very popular. The Atto 3 costs either $44,581 for the standard range or $47,381 for the extended range plus on-road costs. So that can work out slightly cheaper than the MG ZS EV. And it currently makes it the cheapest EV on the market, but not cheap enough in my view. As you may well know, EV Direct have emailed people about the servicing costs, which they have reduced. I still don't believe that they've reduced it enough. But as I said before, it's the legacy auto dealerships that are forcing their hand a bit. And they really haven't changed the warranty, and we've still got no sign of an ANCAP rating. I'm sure it's all going to get sorted out and EV Direct will get their acts into gear. We'll just have to wait and see. So for 2022, there's probably not much else coming. But 2023, we should see a few more EVs enter Australia that are at the lower, cheaper end. The most obvious of these will be the BYD Dolphin or Atto 2, and that may be the cheapest of them all for next year. Various prices have been thrown around, starting at about $37,000 Australian, plus on-road costs for the top of the range model. That should be powered by a 45 kilowatt hour battery, which is good for up to 400 kilometre range. That's based on the rather lenient Chinese testing protocols. I would expect under 300 or thereabouts real world range. That's still quite reasonable for what is termed a city car. There is a smaller battery version, I believe, available with about a 31 kilowatt hour battery in it, but that will probably be capable of 200 k's or a bit under. That's still okay for a city car. And if it's cheap enough, like around the $35,000 mark, it could prove quite popular. All these prices are yet to be confirmed. Now, due early next year is the MG4, little brother to the MG ZS EV. In China, it's known as the MG Mulan, and that's where it's made. It's been spotted in Australia, in Melbourne, with camouflage on it, but it's been available, or many pictures are available of it, certainly in England. Now, it's similar in size to a Toyota Corolla or VW Golf. There's no locked-in time for its launch in Australia, but the first half of 2023 seems likely. It's already received Australian Design Rules certification, but the specifics are not yet listed. Looking at the UK models, where it's becoming available, it's got a 50.8 kilowatt hour battery and an upmarket version with a 61.7 kilowatt hour battery. Those have got a claimed range of 350 and 450 kilometres. Now that's under the WLTP standards, which is the European one, which is a little bit lenient still, but nowhere near as the Chinese versions. So I would say 280 to 380 kilometre real world ranges. Prices, unfortunately, be $40,000 to $50,000 range. Lower end for the smaller battery, upper end for the larger battery. There's also muted for next year to be a performance variant of the MG4, capable of a 0 to 100 kilometers per hour or 62 miles per hour in 3.8 seconds, which is actually about half the time of 7.8-ish seconds for the standard variants. Greatwall Motors are hopefully going to be bringing the Aura Good Cat or Funky Cat or whatever cat they're going to decide to call it here. It's similar in size to the MG4, VW Golf and so on. In the UK, they've got a 48 kilowatt hour and a 63 kilowatt hour battery, providing just over 300 kilometres and just over 400 kilometre ranges. Now, in Thailand, the Aura costs about 20% less than the MG ZS EV, meaning that it would cost about $40,000 here. But in the UK, it's a bit more expensive, and that indicates a pricing very similar to the MG ZS EV, or up to about $50,000. That's unfortunate, because I reckon that that could prove very popular here because it's a funky looking car. Europe has got the Fiat 500e electric vehicle, and this is the smallest car, and it may be due here next year. It's only got 2 doors and reportedly only a 32 kilowatt hour battery, but they say it gives it around 300 kilometers of range. Unfortunately, pricing on the 500e may not be very good. The Fiat 500 Abarth 695, which is a hot hatch ICE vehicle, retails for about $40,000 Australian here, but the 500e could get a lot closer to $43,000 and up. Yeah, something that's really a two-seater EV with unimpressive stats. I personally don't think it's going to be very popular here. And next we've got the Cupra Born, which is expected to have a retail price of $55,000. I think that's a bit steep, but it's got reasonable specs. Now, Cupra, as I've said before, is an arm of Seat, which is a Spanish car company. It's believed that the long-range version will have a 77 kilowatt hour battery, usable 82 kilowatt hours total, capable of 548 kilometers range on the WLTP cycle, read 450 kilometers real world range, still pretty good. The sportier model will have a 170 kilowatt hour motor and sprint from 0 to 100 in 6.6 seconds. Does cost a bit of range, obviously. The standard range will have a 58 kilowatt hour battery or 62 kilowatt hours total. As I said, unfortunately, expect the price range in the very high $50,000 up to $60,000 Australian mark. I think that's going to be a little bit expensive. Now, Renault used to have the Kangoo EV small van, and they're replacing it with a new Kangoo E-Tech next year. And possibly next year, they're also going to be bringing out the Renault Megane E-Tech. But once again, it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be similarly priced to the Cupra Born, $55,000 to $60,000 region. So nothing's definite about these prices at the moment. The Renault Megane E-Tech should come with 2 battery sizes, 40 kilowatt hours and 60 kilowatt hours, with the bigger battery version getting a slightly more powerful motor. the larger battery version with its more powerful motor is reported to have a 0 to 100 time of 7.4 seconds and a range of 470 kilometers, or just under 400 kilometers real world range. Not too bad. But still, neither of these two cars are really in the cheap line. There seems to have been no more information or development on the BYD Seagull, which is a very small city car and could be priced under $40,000 here in Australia, possibly even $35,000. Unfortunately, this is still a premium price compared to similar sized ICE vehicles. So that's about it probably for next year. We may have to wait until 2024, or maybe our government will bring in fuel efficiency and emission standards and encourage more EV manufacturers to bring their cars in. I wouldn't consider a cheap EV until it's priced $35,000 or less. But there doesn't seem to be much hope for that at the moment. If we're to get more EVs sold here, we definitely need some cheaper options. Not many people can afford a $60,000 car. I'm in the fortunate position that I can, and I have, but I'm just one of a few people. Thanks very much for listening. Please don't forget, click that like and subscribe button down here, and I'll see you all very soon.